Banished from Earth Classic Game Room broadcasts from the intergalactic space arcade on its never-ending mission to review everything. Welcome to Classic Game Room, where I've got ROBOCOP versus the Terminator for the Super Nintendo, which is different than the Sega Genesis version. It comes in this great packaging. Also, it comes with a really cool poster that I'm going to be hanging in the back. So, let's watch the review. It's ROBOCOP versus the Terminator, two of my favorite movie characters teaming up to destroy each other on the Super Nintendo. Screaming bad guys, alright, this is from 1993, back from the day when the same game on different game consoles was actually a completely different game. That doesn't happen at all now. I previously reviewed ROBOCOP versus the Terminator on Sega Genesis, and loved it. If you watch that review, you'll see and hear some striking differences. Leaving bias at the door here, I actually do prefer the Sega Genesis version. This one is impossible. At least the bad guys scream when you shoot them, because you'll take damage from everything. Things that you don't even see are just gonna come out and hit you. So level memorization is a must, except the levels are kind of bland. In fact, this entire game feels like a very average platformer with some incredible movie heroes like ROBOCOP and the Terminators. And Ed 209, of course. But what I really like about ROBOCOP versus the Terminator on Super Nintendo is the packaging. This thing comes from the future and it's built like ROBOCOP. In fact, it looks like somebody froze it into a block of carbonite and then took the time to neatly place a Super Nintendo game on the inside. It also tells you the storyline, but you know what to do: shoot everything and try not to die. If you're gonna try to make a case for why this version of the game is better than the Genesis one, it would be the packaging, the screaming sounds, and this incredible poster. Here's what the poster looks like: ROBOCOP versus the Terminator. And on the other side, it's just Super Nintendo with some basketball player. I have no idea who that is. That's Magic Johnson, isn't it? Okay. That's like one of two basketball players I know. That's right, if it's not ROBOCOP or hockey, I don't know anything about it. On the surface, this looks pretty good, and it definitely gets a lot of points in the cool department, but the music is awful, and the entire game feels like it was made for somebody who memorized the game, and maybe that's what they were going for. It's really hard, but that kind of hard, the difficulty level where it leaves no room for any margin of error, so you have to rely on memorization. If you go into this cold, it's about as futile as trying to punch ROBOCOP in the face with your bare hands. ROBOCOP versus the Terminator looks pretty good on the Super Nintendo and definitely shows respect for the source material, except that it really feels like ROBOCOP needs some backup. Maybe the game should have been called ROBOCOP with the Predator versus the Terminator. I mean, as powerful as ROBOCOP is, even Lewis saved his ass a few times in the movie. After desperately attempting to stay alive for more than 2 levels in this game, I have to admit that I think the Genesis version is more playable, with better music, but I love the packaging and the poster, so a huge ROBOCOP-sized thank you goes out to Ryan from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. So thank you, Ryan, for sending this to the show. Look for the poster in the background soon. I'm out of sticky tack today. There's a password system, so obviously you can find those on the internet, but they really won't do you much good because you need the most powerful guns that you can find in the game and you can never die. Remember that ROBOCOP is not indestructible, and if you break him, he's way out of warranty. Also, Apple put OCP out of business years ago. The This is based on the Dark Horse comic book series featuring 10 levels and 4 explosive worlds. Just prepare yourself for some serious challenge on the Super Nintendo with ROBOCOP versus the Terminator. But it's like lots of Terminators. They should have called it ROBOCOP versus Skynet, featuring Ed 209.